The nation this morning is honoring the legacy of Nancy Reagan as a powerful and transformative First Lady. Nancy Reagan was instrumental in Ronald Reagan's political rise and a strong defender of his legacy.
What if the First Lady's past wasn't as pristine as we thought? Disturbing allegations have surfaced that paint Nancy Reagan's time in Hollywood in a different light. Could the life of a Hollywood starlet have been more scandalous than we ever imagined? Let's discover. During her lifetime, Nancy Reagan played many roles. She was an actress, a mother, and an advocate for Alzheimer's research. However, by her own account, her most important role was that of Ronald Reagan's wife and fierce protector. Nancy Reagan's early Hollywood years are the subject of intense scrutiny in Kitty Kelly's unauthorized biography, which makes disturbing allegations about her personal life, including multiple affairs and suggestive reputations. The book portrays her as a figure who used her charm to advance in a competitive industry, sparking debates over the nature of her relationships with influential men in Hollywood. While some see these revelations as a humanizing aspect of her life, they clash with her later conservative image as First Lady. Every great tale has a humble beginning, and the story of the former First Lady and President, Nancy and Ronald Reagan, is no different. Nancy was born in Flushing, New York, in 1921 and grew up with her parents and older brother. She pursued a career in acting after attending Smith College, but she ultimately left it behind to support her husband's political ambitions. On the other hand, Ronald was born in Tampico, Illinois, in 1911 and worked as a radio sports announcer before becoming an actor. Disturbing allegations about Nancy Reagan's time in Hollywood surfaced in a recently published book by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Kitty Kelly titled Nancy Reagan, The Unauthorized Biography. Shocking claims are made about Mrs. Reagan's past. According to the book, Nancy Reagan had a reputation as a Hollywood starlet with a controversial personal life. She allegedly had multiple affairs with actors such as Clark Gable and Frank Sinatra before marrying Ronald Reagan. Kelly also claimed she had a brief fling with future President John F. Kennedy while he was still a senator. These allegations have sparked controversy and divided public opinion. Some believe these claims are unsubstantiated and damaging to Nancy Reagan's legacy, while others argue that it is important to acknowledge the truth about her past before she stepped into the political spotlight and became an icon of the nation. I did not ever get involved with political decisions. Ever. Based on that 1989 interview with the late Mike Wallace, it would be easy to see former First Lady Nancy Reagan as her husband's biggest supporter and not much more. But it turns out Mrs. Reagan was a lot more. The Reagans were a powerful duo who held sway in the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, the world's movie capital. Their paths in Hollywood were as different as chalk and cheese, yet they converged to form one of American history's most influential political teams. The Reagans, known for their conservative political views, held the reins of power, yet their earlier days in the entertainment industry painted a somewhat contrasting picture compared to their political persona. Nancy Reagan, for instance, was fondly called the BJ Queen by her contemporaries during her acting days. This nickname was just one of the many interesting facets of her vibrant and eventful career in Hollywood. Like any celebrity, Nancy Reagan had a fascinating life even before her introduction to the political fraternity through her soon-to-be husband, Ronald Reagan. Ronald, too, was a prominent figure in the entertainment industry and enjoyed the status of a celebrated actor. She was one of the most high-profile, influential First Ladies in history. She championed causes, defended her husband both in public and behind the scenes, and became a president's indispensable partner. President Reagan called on her in his final speech, "Before I go, I would like to ask the person who has made my life's journey so meaningful, someone I have been so very proud of over the years, to join me, Nancy." The couple's journey from Hollywood to the White House is as unique as it is enthralling. It often forms the subject of intense scrutiny and exploration by those interested in knowing more about their early life. Recently, there has been a surge in interest in Nancy's life before her marriage and her time in Hollywood. Much like in any Hollywood plot, what stands out in these tales are the romantic escapades and adventures that both Nancy and Ronald indulged in during their early days, long before the political arena beckoned. Ronald used his star power and charisma to charm numerous women. With his handsome looks and captivating persona, he had no difficulty attracting attention from the opposite sex. All in all, he was a classic Hollywood heartthrob in many ways. Nancy, on the other hand, used her allure differently. Her striking appearance and enchanting personality differentiated her from her contemporaries in the industry. While her husband made waves with his acting prowess, Nancy made her mark with incredible appeal and unique charm. Every individual has a story to tell, and each story is as unique as the person living it. This seems to hold true for the Reagans. Curiously enough, it appears that Nancy Reagan never shied away from undertaking intimate acts to climb the ladder of success in her career. In the 1990s, an unauthorized biography was penned about Nancy Reagan. The purpose behind this narrative was to shed light on some unknown facets of her Hollywood career. This very book, containing stories of her journey in the showbiz industry, ignited recent discussions regarding the extent of Nancy's rumored affairs. The book included a story that spotlighted the alleged fact that Nancy was informally referred to as the "Queen of Oral Pleasuring" by several of her colleagues in Hollywood. Granted, the extent of the former actress's promiscuity has been a subject of speculation for many. However, it seems more probable than not that her sexual involvement was considerably more than what her subsequent conservative persona during her time as First Lady ever revealed. The biography responsible for highlighting these presumed accounts of Nancy's sexual adventures was perceived as fairly contentious. It even faced public criticism from none other than Nancy and her husband, Ron. However, many were inclined to believe that the book actually made Nancy seem more relatable and human to the readers. After all, she had been cast in a negative light frequently during her tenure as the First Lady. The book seemed to serve as a counterpoint, enabling people to view her as a human with flaws and strengths. It chipped away at the dehumanizing portrayal that had been painted of her during her term as the First Lady. So while controversies and debates swirl around Nancy Reagan's past, one thing seems clear: her life was not the pristine existence many thought it was. Instead, it was filled with ups and downs, choices made for survival and success, and a journey that did veer into areas considered taboo by conservative society. Blurred lines of propriety, a hunger for success, and a less ordinary life. That sums up the former First Lady's early life as depicted in the unauthorized biography. Yet, whether these are true or projected, they undeniably provided a different facet of Nancy Reagan, turning her from an aloof, demonized figure into a relatable, albeit controversial, woman. Ronald Reagan, often held in high esteem by the public, received high praise for his charisma and leadership skills. However, his wife, Nancy Reagan, didn't always bask in the same glow of public approval. The path was challenging for her as she continually strove to endear herself to the group of citizens truly enamored by her husband. It seemed she was living under a cloud of high expectations, always struggling to reach perfection in the eyes of her husband's conservative followers. However, a twist in the tale surfaced when stories of her youthful, adventurous days in Hollywood became public knowledge. In stark contrast to her husband's sober, more conservative image, these tales ironically made her a star in her own right. She was no longer just the president's wife, she became famous for the vibrant image she represented, so unlike her husband's old-world charm. The extent to which Nancy Reagan wielded her charm and attractiveness to climb the Hollywood ladder remains a topic of debate. Indeed, many factors in play gave this young woman an edge when she was trying to make a mark in the world of celluloid. One can't deny the fact that Nancy's mother was an already established name in the world of stage and cinema by the time Nancy arrived in this world. This meant she was born into an environment teeming with useful connections that could pave her way to stardom. Nancy's mother, Edith Prescott Luckett Davis, was very close to Spencer Tracy, a noteworthy figure in Hollywood. Many believe that it was through this relationship that Nancy got her foot in the door of the film industry. It was likely Spencer who cast a helping hand and played a significant role in securing Nancy her first role. This gave her the initial push she needed, helping ease her journey into an intimidating industry. Therefore, though her husband's political stature might have initially overshadowed her fame, Nancy's former days in the glamour world and her persistence to be more than just the president's wife ultimately led to her carving out her own distinct identity. By no means an easy challenge, she fought and won her battle for recognition in her unique way. Despite the numerous hurdles on her path, her tenacity and sheer dedication showcased her distinctive charm and charisma. As a result, initially overshadowed by her husband's fame, Nancy Reagan managed to carve out her unique niche. Beautifully contrasting Ronald's conservative public image, Nancy stepped into the sparkling world of Hollywood at a time when Spencer Tracy was a shining luminary. He was one of the dazzling personalities of the industry when Nancy started her journey. In the early days of his acting career, Spencer had crossed paths with Nancy's mother and her adoptive father. Spencer often shared beautiful moments with Nancy's parents, Edith, her mother, and her loving adoptive father. Spencer had been battling alcoholism, and it was Edith and her husband who came to his rescue when Spencer needed a haven to recover from his addiction away from the prying eyes of the public. It was her parents who found him a serene and private recovery center. They extended a helping hand when he was drowning in the darkness of addiction, and their kind act will always be remembered. This close relationship between Spencer and Nancy's parents would surely have opened the doors to opportunities for Nancy herself. It is not difficult to imagine her mother using this friendship to pave the way for her daughter's entry into the film industry, as was often seen in Hollywood during those times. And so, with a little help from her mother and her adoptive father's connections, Nancy Reagan embarked on a journey that would ultimately lead her down paths of both fame and infamy. In light of this history, it's fair to reason that Spencer felt a strong inclination to assist young Nancy, who was then known as Nancy Davis. He wanted to return the favors that her parents had done for him. It's like they say, one good turn deserves another. Spencer was eager to offer Nancy a stepping stone into the world of glitter and glamour. Spencer's willingness didn't stop at just wanting to help. He took action and set Nancy up with her initial screen test. And as they say, the rest is history. Nancy eventually became a well-known entity in Hollywood, a journey that started with Spencer's help. Though Nancy gained entry into Hollywood without any obscure bargains, rumors spread that she might have resorted to other tactics to climb up the ladder of success. Some speculated that she began this habit after getting her foot in the door to secure her place and progress further. One of the men who was linked with these rumors was Benjamin Thau. He held a significant position in the industry as the head of casting at MGM. Over time, he gained an infamous reputation as a bit of a sexual predator. His practices during those early days of Hollywood were called into question. Nancy Reagan was never shy to acknowledge that her success in the glamorous world of cinema didn't come from raw talent alone. There's no denying she had a bit of a leg up. However, during her time in the spotlight, she never conceded to allegations hinting she might have indulged in dubious means to climb the ladder of fame. Speaking about Nancy's initiation into acting, it's important to mention her involvement with a crucial figure, the casting director of MGM, Mr. Benjamin Thau. Historical accounts suggest that she crossed paths with him soon after she entered Hollywood, courtesy of the well-established family friend Spencer Tracy. A closer look into Benjamin Thau's reputation in the film industry paints a less than flattering image. He was known to have a predatory nature. He wasn't too scrupulous about requesting sexual favors from ambitious actresses who hoped to land lead roles in MGM's esteemed productions. Famously, Marilyn Monroe, the timeless beauty, had pointed out Benjamin's exploitative practice of exchanging career opportunities for intimate favors. Fast-forwarding to today's era, one might categorize Benjamin Thau's actions under the now well-recognized banner of behavior that the pivotal #MeToo movement has been steadfastly challenging. However, it's important to remember that there was no such movement in sight back in the day. The absence of such a platform meant aspiring actresses were often left with a tough choice: submit to the shameful demand of sleeping with high-ranking executives to get a chance to shine, or courageously look for a more ethical and dignified way to make their mark. The issue was whether she should consider bestowing romantic favors on a man named Benjamin Thau to further her career in the entertainment industry. Many historians interpret her actions as indicating that she didn't perceive herself as too good for such deeds. The relationship between Nancy and Benjamin appeared to evolve into a friendly one. Common sense suggests that Benjamin's fondness for the budding actress may not have been so profound if she hadn't reciprocated with some sort of gift in return. While there's no concrete evidence to claim a romantic or sexual liaison between Nancy Reagan and Benjamin Thau, it's not far-fetched to think that there might have been. As the years rolled by and she transitioned from Hollywood to other areas of her life, Nancy often addressed questions about her past and her relationship with Benjamin Thau. The once popular actress was always careful not to reveal too much, yet she consistently emphasized that Benjamin cherished her greatly. In fact, she often stated that Benjamin held her in such high esteem that he would have given her his wife, giving her an opportunity. However, destiny had other plans for Nancy. When it was time for her to walk down the aisle to say, "I do," her heart was set on another, far more charming and attractive man. That man was none other than Ronald Reagan, a character who is remembered not just for his good looks but for his charisma that won over the hearts of many, including Nancy. Before marrying her illustrious husband, Ronald Reagan, Nancy had her fair share of romantic escapades with numerous men. Unsurprisingly, the former actress's romantic journeys weren't always smooth sailing. Before tying the knot with Ronald, her love life was loaded with different trials and tribulations. Even if you take Benjamin Thau out of the picture, Nancy's path to finding true love bore a number of thorny instances. Being engaged to a man she discovered was gay and losing a boyfriend to a tragic train accident were just a few of the hurdles she overcame. For a long time, Nancy was probably under the impression that her knight in shining armor was just a figment of her imagination. But then life took a turn, and she was introduced to the charismatic actor Ronald Reagan. On the other hand, Ronald Reagan also had a spicy history knitted with love during his stint as a Hollywood artist. His romantic indulgences, however, didn't raise as many eyebrows in those days. Society was not as accepting of women's liberal attitudes towards relationships as men's. He lived in an era where a woman's reputation was scrutinized more than a man's. The start of Nancy and Ronald's romantic saga was quite interesting. It all began when Nancy's name started appearing on a blacklist, allegedly indicating that she was sympathetic towards communists. This caused a wave of fear and concern within her. Nancy was quite alarmed when her name started appearing on the said list. She was confused, worried, and unsure how to deal with this seemingly complicated issue. She felt like she was in a maze with no clear way out. She decided to seek advice from the movie director she was working with at that time. The director suggested reaching out to none other than Ronald Reagan, who then held the esteemed position of president of the Screen Actors Guild. So began their story, their journey towards love and companionship. Having some issues at hand, Nancy turned to her director for help. With the director's aid, she established contact with Ronald, who happened to be the president of the Screen Actors Guild. In fact, he was so kind that he offered to treat her to a delightful dinner, aiming to have a thorough conversation about the problem plaguing her. As they met, Nancy was astounded by Ronald's handsome appeal in real life. She had always wondered if his on-screen charm was merely due to clever lighting techniques. Still, the first-hand experience left her pleasantly surprised. Ronald did much more than dazzle her with his looks. He assisted Nancy in resolving her issue, showing his capability and willingness to help. Interestingly, besides the initial problem, another issue surfaced that Ronald turned out to be capable of addressing. This secondary issue was related to the turbulence in Nancy's romantic life. Ronald's solution was not only innovative but also romantic. He proposed to be her partner for life, in other words, her new husband. This was how Nancy's problematic love life turned a new leaf. However, the narrative of Nancy Reagan's life took an intriguing turn. In her early Hollywood days, she gained a reputation somewhat notorious for being the queen of erotic stimulation. As time passed and roles switched, her image transformed dramatically. As she stepped into the shoes of the First Lady of the United States, her persona changed dramatically, gaining a different kind of notoriety. She sparked fear. This fear stemmed from her assertive political practices carried out alongside her husband in his presidential role. This shift in her image turned her into a figure that was criticized and feared, largely due to her sheer dominance in the political landscape of the United States. Thus, Nancy Reagan's story is a fascinating mix of charm, transformation, romance, power, and a hint of controversy. From being led to a dinner by a charming Hollywood figure to becoming a dominant partner of the United States president, her journey has been nothing short of remarkable. Did you really believe the late ex-First Lady only stood for traditional values? We would be thrilled if you liked this video. Your support means a lot to us. And for those of you who don't want to miss any more videos from us, do remember to smash that subscribe button and tap the notification bell.